Hello again guys, welcome back to the channel. It is Comic Kid here again, and it has been a long time since I've done a run versus run video for you guys, but with the recent wrap up of Donny Cates' run on Venom, I figured now would be the perfect time to compare it to the one prior by Mike Costa. Now, both authors brought a lot to the character and did their own big things with him in certain ways, even though Donny Cates wrote the character for a bit longer. And so, yeah, I mean, if y'all have seen a run versus run video, well, you'll know the drill, but we're going to talk about some of the strengths and weaknesses of both and how the two compare. As always, before we get started, don't forget to hit like and subscribe. And be sure to check out the links in the description below. It really helps support the channel and also helps out some of your favorite creators. But without any further ado, we'll go ahead and jump right in. Now, starting with Mike Costa. Costa picked up Venom after the Venom Space Knight series starring Flash Thompson. And effectively the symbiote is on its own and is looking for a new host. Now, Costa started by pairing the symbiote, or I guess giving him the new host of Lee Price. And I actually feel like this was an underutilized character, or at least arc. Lee Price is absolutely not a good guy, arguably worse than Eddie Brock even in the beginning, and I actually thought it was really interesting to see how the symbiote had evolved as a character, going from people like Eddie Brock to Matt Gargan to Flash Thompson, and I think Harry Osborn's somewhere in between there as well. But giving the symbiote to all those different characters, and then especially going from a good guy like Flash Thompson to Lee Price, I think was a very interesting idea, because you see the symbiote not really want to do anything that Lee Price wants to do. And I actually feel like they could have gotten a whole arc out of this story, but after 2 or 3 issues or whatever, he's just suddenly back with Eddie Brock and the two are Venom again. That said, I was very happy to see the symbiote reunited with Eddie as well, but I do think they missed out on a chance to explore a bit more with the symbiote and Lee Price. Now, unfortunately, that is really the biggest thing that Costa really got a chance to do with the character, and most everything else about the Venom arc that he did, or the Venom run that he did, is unfortunately a little bland. That said, the artwork is pretty good throughout the entire series, even if they change up artists. And don't get me wrong, I don't think anything Costa did was bad by any means. It just felt very typical, bland, whatever you may want to say about it. I do feel like he had some good ideas that could have been executed a little better, but I mean, the last arc with the Nativity is only 2 issues if I'm not mistaken. It might have been 3, but I'm pretty sure it was just 2. And so yeah, I just feel like he really just didn't get a chance to really find his footing with the character. I'm really not sure if he was booted off to make room for Donny Cates or not. I did not read the first host arc that he did kind of as a follow-up to this run, which introduces the first host to have the symbiote that would go on to become Venom. But I have heard decent things about that one as well, and I do wish I had read it before filming this video, but given the rest of Costa's run, I unfortunately didn't really have that much interest in it. Now, I feel like I'm hating on it, and I hate hating on things. It is really not bad by any means. It's just kind of there. And if you're a Venom fan and you just want some really good fun stories, it'll definitely be worth your time. But there's so little that it did for the character that I don't really have much else to say about it in regards to this video. That said, Donny Cates also kind of revolutionized or revamped, or whatever word you want to use for Venom, and so There is a reason that a bunch of people suddenly flocked back to the title once Donny Cates came aboard. Which brings us to our first point, in that Donny Cates completely revitalized the Venom character. He gave him a whole extra backstory, a whole other mythos for both Eddie Brock and the symbiote. He did a lot with Venom in terms of using him within the Marvel Universe, and you figure out that, oh yeah, Venom or the Clintar kind of have spanned all of Marvel history, and he really kind of established Eddie Brock and Venom as one of the most powerful Marvel characters, especially by the end of his run. There's a significantly stronger emotional attachment to Eddie Brock for readers in this run. Personally, I feel like he's a lot more relatable and likable. Cates does things like give him a kid and explores his troubled past and his relationship with his dad, and there's just a lot more depth to Eddie Brock aside from kind of how he's been portrayed in the past. And so I really, really liked this. I also loved how Cates spun his relationship with his symbiote, and just kind of how the two grew together throughout this story. And despite all of their history, I really feel like this is something that just kind of should have been told before, that it took everyone up to Donny Cates to be like, oh yeah, like it's a symbiotic relationship, the symbiote is also a character. And I feel like Daniel Way did a little bit of this too, but I feel like Cates like really expanded on it and kind of made it one of the main focal points of his entire run. Now, in terms of art, for the most part, this wasn't always the case, but Cates usually worked with Ryan Stegman on the art. Stegman did, I believe, the first 12 issues, and then just the key arcs after that. The key arcs being Absolute Carnage, and then obviously King in Black. Now, despite other Venom-related events in the past, which Venomized is really the only other one, there is Venomverse as well, but I mean, the two really don't quite stack up to stories like Absolute Carnage or King in Black. It's these events in particular that Cates really uses to bring Venom to the forefront of the Marvel Universe and say, hey, he is a major player, he is doing all these massive things, and they are having an impact on everyone. And like beyond the Spider People and everything, like almost everyone in the Marvel Universe was involved in King in Black. And so yeah, like as iffy or hit or miss as some event storylines can be, Donny did a fantastic job of both impacting the larger scale of the Marvel Universe without taking too much away from other characters' storylines at the same time. Now, I did get a little off track. I was talking about Ryan Stegman. The man's art is fantastic, like absolutely gorgeous. It suits Venom incredibly well, and to see him on all the major storylines is just like chef's kiss, like perfect. He draws a absolutely phenomenal Spider-Man, and like anything with Ryan Stegman's art, I am almost on board just for him. It almost doesn't matter what the story will be. Fortunately, he was paired with Donny Cates on this, and so it's all around a fantastic package. But yeah, Stegman's art is just wonderful. But now to jump back to Cates and the story. Like I said, he just revitalized Venom in such a way that it's such a breath of fresh air for this character. Cates also pulls a lot of Venom history out of the back wings, puts it all on the forefront, writes some of his own new history for the character, and just wraps everything up in a nice neat little bow by the end. And in regards to the end itself, I really feel like King in Black just was a perfect finale for everything Cates did. And I'm really kind of excited to see where Dylan goes forth as Venom. Eddie Brock is likely still going to be involved in some form or fashion with the Venom character, but once again it looks like the symbiote has a new host in Dylan Brock, and going forward it looks like it'll be him. And then for such a massive storyline and all the character development, it's nice to see that the story ended with them actually moving forward rather than just Cates kind of circling back to his starting point. And that's common with a lot of comics. You have a writer who will come in, do whatever, and then circle back to wherever they started, effectively hitting the reset button. That is not the case with Donny Cates' Venom, and I think that's really what helps his run to stand out. But that is about everything that I have to say about the two of these runs. In case it wasn't obvious, I would say I preferred Donny Cates' run, but again, don't get me wrong, Mike Costa still does tell good Venom stories throughout his time with the character. It's just really hard to measure up against someone who did such a strong and different thing with a character who already has so much history. Cates also got a few extra volumes out of it. He was with the character for longer, and so I don't hold anything against Mike Costa by any means. Again, it's still worth your time in checking out, especially if you're a Venom fan. It's just that Cates really brought everything he had to this character in this story. I am curious to see where Al Ewing goes from this point on, and I'm curious to check out Donny Cates' Hulk as well, but in terms of these two runs, I do feel like that's all I have to say about them. So that is everything for today, you guys. As always, be sure to let me know what you think of these two runs down in the comments section below. Be sure to check out my side project, True Criminals, as well, available on Spotify and all other podcast platforms. Don't forget to hit the links in the description below to support the creators as well as the channel. And be sure to check out my friends over at Next Issue Podcast as well. But that is it for today. Thank y'all again so much for watching, and I will see you again real soon.